3 nurses quit in 3 weeks. That should have been her first clue to stay away. Instead, she walked right into that mansion and changed everything without even meaning to. If you're into stories that hit different, go ahead and subscribe because we're diving deep into this one. Hit that like button too. Trust me, you'll want to remember where you heard this first. The mansion door slammed behind Viviana, and she clutched her nursing bag tighter. 3 nurses before her had quit within days. The agency lady had warned her. Ryeon Byun was impossible. Rude, cold, refused treatment. But Viviana needed this job desperately. Her mama's dialysis treatments weren't going to pay for themselves. "You're late," a voice said from the shadows. Viviana jumped. A man sat in a wheelchair by the window, his back to her. Even from behind, she could tell he was young, maybe 30. His shoulders were broad under a black shirt. "Traffic was bad, and I'm actually 10 minutes early," she said, checking her watch. He turned the wheelchair around. Viviana's stomach flipped. He was gorgeous. Sharp jawline, dark eyes that looked like they could see through walls, black hair falling across his forehead. But those eyes, they were empty, completely hollow. "I didn't ask for another nurse," Ryan said flatly. "Leave." "Well, that's too bad because I'm staying." Viviana walked past him, setting her bag on the table. "Your doctor says you haven't taken your medication in 3 days. That leg wound won't heal if you keep—" "Get out!" "Nope." She pulled out the medication bottles, arranging them in a row. "You can sit there and glare all you want, but I've dealt with worse than you. My mama once threw a bedpan at me when she was having a bad day. You're gonna have to try harder." Something flickered in Ryan's eyes. Surprise, maybe. Nobody talked to him like this. "I don't need your help," he said, but his voice had lost some of its edge. "Your infected leg says otherwise." Viviana knelt beside the wheelchair, gently rolling up his pant leg. The wound was worse than she'd expected. Red, swollen, angry. "This needs to be cleaned and dressed properly. When's the last time someone changed this bandage?" Ryan looked away. 2 days ago, the last nurse quit before she could finish. "Of course she did." Viviana sighed, pulling out her supplies. "This is gonna hurt a bit, but you seem like you can handle it." As she worked, she felt his eyes on her, studying her. Most people would have been nervous under that intense gaze, but Viviana had learned long ago that the toughest patients were usually the most scared. "You're different," Ryan said suddenly. "The others were terrified of me." "Should I be terrified?" Viviana asked, not looking up from her work. "Most people are. They know who I am, what I do. I know you're Ryeon Byun. I know you run half the businesses in this city, legal and otherwise. I know people whisper your name like it's dangerous." She taped down the fresh bandage and met his eyes. "But right now, you're just a stubborn patient who needs medical care. That's all I see." Ryan's expression shifted. For the first time since she'd arrived, he almost looked human. "You're either very brave or very stupid," he said quietly. "Probably both." Viviana stood up, washing her hands in the nearby sink. "Now, you're going to take these pills, eat something, and rest. Tomorrow we'll work on getting you mobile again. That leg won't heal if you're stuck in this chair all day." "I can't walk," Ryan said, and there was something broken in his voice. "The accident. The doctors said with proper physical therapy, you might regain function." "Might. But you've been refusing treatment, so we'll never know, will we?" Viviana crossed her arms. "You scared of the pain or scared of hoping?" The question hung in the air like smoke. Ryan's hands gripped the wheelchair armrests so tight his knuckles went white. "You don't know anything about me," he whispered. "Then tell me." Viviana pulled up a chair and sat down, facing him directly. "I've got time." For a long moment, Ryan just stared at her. Then, slowly, he started talking. About the car accident 3 months ago. About how his business partner, his best friend since childhood, Junho, had been driving. How they'd been arguing about something stupid, and Junho had looked away from the road for just a second. The truck came out of nowhere. Junho died instantly, Ryan said, his voice hollow. I survived, but I can't even stand up. Some survival. Viviana reached out and put her hand over his. He flinched but didn't pull away. Surviving means you get another chance, she said softly. Maybe you're supposed to do something with it. Before Ryan could respond, the mansion doors burst open. A woman in a designer dress stormed in, her heels clicking against the floor like bullets. She was beautiful in a sharp, calculated way. Perfectly. Styled hair, red lips, cold eyes. Ryan, darling, I heard you hired another nurse, the woman said, her voice dripping with false sweetness. She glanced at Viviana with barely concealed disgust. This one looks different from the usual help. Myeon, Ryan said, his voice going flat again. What are you doing here? Checking on my fiancé, of course. Myeon walked over and placed a possessive hand on Ryan's shoulder. We're still engaged, aren't we? Even if you've been avoiding my calls. Viviana stood up quickly, suddenly feeling like she'd walked into something complicated. I'll just prepare your evening medication. Yes, do that, Myeon said dismissively. Then, to Ryan, in a whisper that wasn't quite quiet enough. Really? You're letting someone like her touch you? What would your family say? Viviana's back stiffened, but she kept walking toward the kitchen. She'd dealt with racism her whole life. This wasn't new. But somehow, hearing it here, in front of Ryan, it stung differently. She was measuring out pills when she heard Ryan's voice, clear and cold. Myeon, get out! Excuse me? You heard me. Leave, and don't come back unless I specifically invite you. Ryan, you can't be serious. Our families have an agreement. I don't care about agreements. Leave, now! The silence was deafening. Then came the sharp sound of heels retreating, followed by a door slamming. Viviana let out a breath she didn't know she'd been holding. When she returned with the medication, Ryan was staring out the window again. His jaw was set, but there was something vulnerable in the way he held himself. You didn't have to do that, Viviana said quietly, handing him the pills. Yes, I did. Ryan took the medication, swallowing them without water. My father arranged that engagement before the accident. Myeon doesn't care about me. She cares about the power and money. I've known it for years, but I was too much of a coward to break it off. And now I'm done pretending. He looked at her, and something in his eyes made Viviana's heart skip. You asked if I was scared of hoping. Maybe I am, but maybe I want to try anyway. Viviana smiled. It was a small moment, but it felt like the beginning of something impossible. Batch 2. 3 weeks passed like a dream and a nightmare mixed together. Viviana came every day, and slowly, painfully, Ryan started to heal. Not just his leg, though that was getting better too, but something deeper. He smiled sometimes now. Actual smiles that reached his eyes. They talked about everything. Viviana told him about growing up in Botswana, about her mama's illness, about her dreams of opening a free clinic someday. Ryan told her about the pressure of running his father's empire, about feeling trapped in a life he never chose, about Junho and the guilt that still kept him up at night. Stand up, Viviana said one morning, positioning the parallel bars in the physical therapy room. I can't. You can. You've been getting stronger. I've seen it. She held out her hand. Trust me? Ryan looked at her hand for a long moment. Then, slowly, he reached out and took it. His palm was warm against hers, and Viviana felt electricity shoot up her arm. Their eyes met, and suddenly the air felt thick. Okay, Ryan whispered. I trust you. With Viviana supporting him, Ryan pushed himself up from the wheelchair. His legs shook violently, and his face twisted in pain. But he stood. Actually stood. For the first time in 3 months, he was on his feet. I'm standing, he said, his voice breaking with emotion. You're standing, Viviana confirmed, tears in her own eyes. You're doing it. They stood there. Ryan leaning heavily on the bars and on her, both of them crying and laughing at the same time. It was a small victory, but it felt enormous. That night, Ryan asked Viviana to stay for dinner. They ate together in the dining room. Nothing fancy, just the simple stew Viviana had made because Ryan's personal chef had the evening off. They talked and laughed, and for a few hours, Ryan wasn't a mafia boss and Viviana wasn't just his nurse. They were just two people who understood each other. "I need to tell you something," Ryan said as they were cleaning up. He looked nervous, which was strange on him. "These past few weeks, you've changed everything for me. I don't just mean the physical therapy. I mean, you make me want to be better, to do better." Viviana's heart hammered. "Ryan, I know it's complicated. I know I'm engaged, even if it's an engagement I never wanted. I know our worlds are completely different, but I can't keep pretending I don't feel." The front door exploded inward. Not literally, but it might as well have. A tall, older man in an expensive suit walked in, flanked by two bodyguards. He looked like an older, colder version of Ryan. "Father," Ryan said, his voice going ice cold. "I wasn't expecting you." Clearly, Ryan's father, Chairman Byun, stared at Viviana like she was an insect. "Is this the nurse Ryeon told me about? The one who's been caring for you?" "Her name is Viviana," Ryan said firmly. "And yes, she's been helping me recover. I can walk again because of her." "How wonderful." Chairman Byun's smile didn't reach his eyes. "I'm sure she's been very dedicated. However, her services are no longer needed. I've arranged for a proper medical team to take over your care." "I don't want another team. I want Viviana." "What you want is irrelevant." Chairman Byun pulled out a checkbook, scribbled something, and handed it to Viviana. "This should more than compensate you for your time. Please collect your things and leave." Viviana looked at the check. It was for more money than she'd make in 2 years, enough to pay for her mama's treatments and then some. Her hands started to shake. "Don't take it," Ryan said urgently, moving toward her. His leg buckled, slightly, but he caught himself on the table. "Viviana, please, don't leave." But Viviana was already doing the math in her head. Her mama needed that money, needed it desperately. And what future did she really have here anyway? Ryan was engaged to someone else. He lived in a world where people like Viviana didn't belong. His own father was making that crystal clear. "I'm sorry," she whispered, taking the check. "I have to think about my mother." "Viviana, thank you for everything, Ryan. I hope you keep getting better." She grabbed her bag and walked out before she could change her mind, before she could see the look of betrayal on Ryan's face, before she could admit that leaving him felt like ripping her own heart out. Outside, Viviana made it to her car before she started sobbing. She'd done the right thing, hadn't she? Her mama needed this money. That's what mattered. But then why did it feel so wrong? Back inside the mansion, Ryan turned on his father with fury in his eyes. "How dare you?" he said quietly, dangerously. "How dare you come into my home and your home? This is my house. Everything you have is mine." Chairman Byun's voice was cold. "You're my son, and you will marry Ryeon as arranged. This distraction was getting out of hand. Ryeon was worried, and rightfully so. Ryeon put you up to this. She told me about your little nurse, about how you've been spending all your time with her, about how you've been talking about breaking off the engagement." Chairman Byun shook his head. "I won't allow you to throw away our family's alliance for some fleeting infatuation." "It's not infatuation," Ryan said, his voice breaking. "I love her." The words hung in the air. It was the first time Ryan had admitted it out loud, even to himself. And now it was too late. Chairman Byun's expression didn't change. "Then you'll learn to unlove her. The wedding is in 3 months. I suggest you prepare yourself." He walked out, leaving Ryan standing alone in the dining room, surrounded by the remnants of the dinner he'd shared with Viviana. The dinner that now felt like a lifetime ago. Ryan looked down at the parallel bars where he'd stood for the first time, where Viviana had held his hand and believed in him when no one else did. I'll find a way, he whispered to the empty room. I'll find a way back to you. Batch 3. 2 months passed. Viviana threw herself into work, taking on double shifts at the hospital to avoid thinking about Ryeon. She'd used Chairman Byun's money to pay for her mama's treatments, and her mama was doing better. That should have been enough. It should have made everything worth it. But every night, Viviana dreamed about dark eyes and a smile that had slowly learned to be real. You look terrible, baby girl, her mama said one evening as Viviana brought her dinner. You working too hard? I'm fine, mama. Don't lie to your mama. I birthed you. I know when something's eating at you. She patted the bed beside her. Come on, tell me. So Viviana did. She told her everything. About Ryeon, about the job, about how she'd left because of the money, but also because she'd been scared. Scared of falling for someone so completely wrong for her. Scared of wanting something she could never have. That man love you? Her mama asked when Viviana finished. He said he did, but it doesn't matter. His family would never accept. Baby, listen to me. Her mama gripped Viviana's hand tight. I didn't raise you to run away from love because you're scared. You think I didn't face opposition when I married your father? His family thought I wasn't good enough either, but we loved each other and we fought for it. This is different. It's not different. It's never different. Her mama's eyes were fierce. Money comes and goes. I'm grateful for what you did, but I don't want you sacrificing your happiness for my medical bills. You hear me? Viviana nodded, tears streaming down her face. So what you gonna do about it? Her mama asked. Before Viviana could answer, her phone rang. Unknown number. She almost didn't pick up, but something made her answer. Viviana. The voice was female, shaking. This is Sora, Mr. Byun's housekeeper. You need to come quickly. It's Ryeon. He's in the hospital. There's been an incident. Viviana's blood turned to ice. What kind of incident? Someone tried to poison him at the engagement party tonight. He's alive, but barely. The doctors say the next few hours are critical. Sora's voice dropped to a whisper. He keeps asking for you. Please, he needs you. Viviana was already grabbing her keys. Which hospital? 20 minutes later, she burst into Seoul Medical Center's ICU. She'd broken every traffic law getting here, but she didn't care. The receptionist tried to stop her, but Viviana pushed past, following the signs to the private wing. Sora met her outside Ryeon's room. The older woman's eyes were red from crying. They won't let anyone in except family, Sora said. But I thought, maybe if you're his nurse, they might. I'll handle it. Viviana marched up to the guard at the door. I'm Viviana, Mr. Byun's primary care nurse. Let me in. Only family. He's asking for me, and I'm the only person here who knows his complete medical history since the accident. You really want to explain to Chairman Byun why you stopped me from potentially saving his son's life? The guard hesitated, then stepped aside. Viviana pushed through the door. Ryeon lay in the hospital bed, pale as death. Machines beeped around him, monitoring his vitals. An IV drip fed into his arm, but his eyes were open, and when he saw Viviana, they filled with something like relief. You came, he whispered, his voice weak. Of course I came, you idiot. Viviana rushed to his bedside, checking his charts. Her nurse brain kicked in automatically. What happened? The engagement party. Someone put something in. My drink. The doctor said it was some kind of toxin. Ryeon coughed, and Viviana's heart clenched at how frail he sounded. They're saying I might not make it through the night. Don't talk like that. Viviana gripped his hand. You're gonna be fine. You hear me? You're too stubborn to die. Ryeon managed a weak smile. I missed you. Every single day, I missed you. I missed you too, Viviana admitted, tears falling freely now. I'm so sorry I left. I was scared and stupid, and… Viviana, listen. Ryeon squeezed her hand with what little strength he had. If I don't make it, you're making it. If I don't, he continued firmly, I need you to know something. Myeon, she's the one who did this. I'm almost certain. Viviana's eyes widened. What? Why would... I broke off the engagement 2 weeks ago. Told my father I wouldn't marry her no matter what. Ryeon was furious. She said I'd regret it. I didn't think she meant... He coughed again, harder this time. She's been working with my uncle, Chairman Byun's brother. He wants control of the family business. If I die without an heir, he's next in line. We need to tell someone. Who? My father. He'll never believe it without proof. And Ryeon's smart. She would have covered her tracks. Ryan's eyes started to close. Just stay with me? I don't want to be alone. I'm not going anywhere, Viviana promised, pressing her forehead to his hand. You're gonna get through this, and then we're gonna figure everything out. Together. But even as she said it, the machines started beeping faster. Ryan's vitals were crashing. Nurse, Viviana screamed. I need help in here. Doctors and nurses flooded in. They pushed Viviana aside as they worked on Ryan, shouting medical terms, injecting medications. Viviana stood frozen, watching the man she loved fight for his life. And then, through the chaos, she saw her. Ryeon, standing in the hallway outside the glass window, watching. And she was smiling. Something snapped inside Viviana. She marched out of the room and grabbed Ryeon by the arm. What did you give him? Viviana demanded. What poison? I don't know what you're talking about. Ryeon's smile didn't waver. Poor Ryan, so tragic, and right before our wedding too. You called off the wedding, he told me. Did he? Well, that's his word against mine. And who do you think the family will believe? His elegant, well-connected fiancée? Or the random nurse he developed an unfortunate obsession with? Ryeon leaned in close. You should leave while you still can. This world isn't meant for people like you. You're right, Viviana said quietly. It's not. Because I actually have a heart. She turned back to Ryan's room, her mind racing. There had to be a way to prove what Ryeon did. Had to be something. And then she remembered. Sora had said someone tried to poison Ryan at the engagement party, which meant there were probably security cameras, probably footage. Viviana pulled out her phone and called Sora. The engagement party. Where was it held? At the Byun family estate. Why? Do they have security cameras? Yes, but only Chairman Byun has access to the footage. Viviana's mind worked rapidly. Can you get me into the estate tonight? That's impossible. There are guards everywhere, and Sora, if we don't find proof of what Ryeon did, Ryan might die. And even if he survives, she'll find another way to hurt him. Please. There was a long pause. Then, there's a service entrance. I can let you in through there, but you'll have to be quick. Batch 4. The Byun family estate was enormous, sprawling across acres of perfectly manicured land. Viviana felt completely out of place as she snuck through the service entrance Sora had left open for her. The security office is in the East Wing, Sora had told her over the phone. But Chairman Byun is in his study on the second floor. If he catches you, he won't, Viviana had said, with more confidence than she felt. Now, creeping through the darkened hallways, Viviana questioned every life choice that had led to this moment. She was breaking into a powerful man's home to steal security footage. This was crazy. What are you doing here? Viviana spun around. A young man stood behind her, maybe 25, with sharp features and suspicious eyes. He looked familiar. Something about the way he held himself reminded her of Ryan. I'm Ryan's nurse, Viviana said carefully. I'm looking for something that might help him. The young man's expression shifted. You're Viviana. Ryan talked about you a lot. Who are you? Do Kyum, Ryan's younger brother. He stepped closer, studying her. You're the reason he finally stood up to father. The reason he broke off the engagement with that snake Ryeon. You don't like her either? Hate her, Do Kyum said bluntly. She's been playing Ryan for months, working with our uncle to try and take over the company. I've been gathering evidence, but... He hesitated. Why are you here? Really? Viviana made a split-second decision to trust him. Mion poisoned Ryan tonight. He's barely hanging on. I need the security footage from the engagement party to prove it. Do Kyum's eyes hardened. Follow me. He led her through a maze of hallways to the security office. Inside, dozens of monitors displayed different areas of the estate. Do Kyum sat at the main computer and started typing. The engagement party was held in the grand ballroom, he muttered, pulling up footage. If Mion poisoned him, it would have been there. The screen showed the party in full swing. Guests mingled, servers circulated with drinks. And there was Ryan, looking miserable in a suit, holding a glass of wine. Watch, Do Kyum said, pointing. On screen, Mion approached Ryan. They talked for a moment. The footage didn't have sound, but their body language was tense. Then Mion said something that made Ryan turn away in disgust. While his back was turned, Mion pulled something from her purse, a small vial. She poured it into Ryan's wine glass. Got you, Viviana whispered. That's not all. Do Kyum fast-forwarded. The footage now showed Mion in a corner, talking on her phone. Then a man entered the frame. Older, distinguished-looking, with cold eyes. Our uncle, Do Kyum said darkly. Uncle Jinwook. He's been trying to push father out for years. On screen, Mion and Jinwook talked. Then Jinwook handed her something. It looked like documents. They shook hands like business partners sealing a deal. We need to show this to Chairman Byun, Viviana said. He won't believe it coming from me. He thinks I'm too young, too emotional. Do Kyum looked at her. But you saved Ryan once already. Maybe he'll listen to you. Before Viviana could respond, the door burst open. Uncle Jinwook stood there, flanked by two large men. Well, well, he said smoothly. Little Do Kyum, playing detective. And with Ryan's nurse, how touching. You're behind all of this, Viviana said, stepping in front of Do Kyum protectively. You and Mion. Behind what? I'm simply securing my rightful place in the family business. Jinwook smiled, but it was a shark's smile. My brother has gone soft. He let Ryan refuse a strategic marriage for what? Love? Pathetic. This family needs strong leadership. So you're gonna murder your own nephew? Murder is such an ugly word. I prefer removal of obstacles. Jinwook gestured to his men. Bring them. The two men lunged forward. Do Kyum pushed Viviana toward a side door. Run, he shouted. Get that footage to the hospital. To father. I'll hold them off. I'm not leaving you. Go! Viviana ran. She could hear shouting behind her, the sound of a struggle. But she didn't stop. She clutched the USB drive Do Kyum had given her, the one with all the security footage, and ran like her life depended on it. Because it probably did. She made it to her car and peeled out of the estate, her hands shaking on the steering wheel. Behind her, she could see lights turning on in the mansion. They'd be coming after her. Viviana called Sora as she drove. I've got the footage. I'm heading to the hospital. But Do Kyum? They got Do Kyum. We need help. I'll call the police, Sora said. Just get somewhere safe. But Viviana wasn't going somewhere safe. She was going back to the hospital, back to Ryan. She had the proof they needed. Now she just had to make sure Ryan was still alive to see justice done. When she burst into Ryan's hospital room, Chairman Byun was there. He stood by his son's bedside, his face unreadable. You, he said when he saw Viviana. I told you to stay away from my son. Your son is dying because of your brother, Viviana said breathlessly. She held up the USB drive. I have proof. Security footage showing Mion poisoning Ryan's drink, showing her working with Jinwook to overthrow. You. Chairman Byun's eyes narrowed. That's a serious accusation. Then look at the footage yourself. Viviana handed him the drive. But do it fast, because Jinwook has your other son. He has Do Kyum. For the first time since Viviana had met him, Chairman Byun looked shaken. He took the USB drive and plugged it into his laptop. As he watched the footage, his expression grew darker and darker. That traitor, he whispered. That absolute traitor. He pulled out his phone and made a series of rapid calls. Within minutes, the room was full of security personnel. Find my brother, Chairman Byun ordered. Bring him here, and bring Do-kyum home safely. Use whatever force is necessary. As his people scattered, Chairman Byun turned to Viviana. His expression was complicated, still cold, but with something else underneath. Maybe respect. You risked your life for my son, he said quietly. Why? Because I love him, Viviana said simply. And because what Myeon and Jinwook are doing is wrong. Family shouldn't betray family like this. Chairman Byun looked at Ryan's unconscious form. I was wrong about you. I judged you based on prejudice and fear. Fear that Ryan would choose his own path instead of the one I laid out for him. He paused, but maybe his path is the right one. Before Viviana could respond, the machine started beeping frantically again. Ryan's body convulsed. He's crashing, a nurse shouted. The medical team swarmed in. Viviana watched helplessly as they worked, shocking Ryan's heart, injecting medications. The minutes felt like hours. And then finally, the beeping stabilized. Ryan's breathing evened out. The doctor turned to them, wiping sweat from his forehead. He's stable, the doctor said. The antidote is working. He should wake up in the next few hours. Viviana nearly collapsed with relief. Chairman Byun caught her arm, steadying her. Thank you, he said quietly. For everything. Batch 5. Ryan woke up 3 days later. Viviana was asleep in the chair beside his bed when she felt someone touch her hand. She jerked awake to find dark eyes watching her. Hey, Ryan whispered, his voice rough. Hey yourself. Viviana's eyes filled with tears. You scared me half to death. Sorry about that. Ryan tried to smile. Did I miss anything important? Oh, just your uncle getting arrested for conspiracy and attempted murder. Your ex-fiancée fleeing the country before the police could catch her. Your brother becoming a hero. Your father having a complete change of heart about us. The usual. Ryan's eyebrows rose. Us? Viviana blushed. I mean, if there's still an us. I left you. I took that money and... You did what you had to do for your mother. I understand. Ryan squeezed her hand. Is she okay? She's doing better. The treatments are working. Viviana smiled through her tears. She wants to meet you, actually. Says she needs to make sure you're good enough for her daughter. I'm not sure I am, Ryan said softly. But I want to try, if you'll let me. Ryan, Viviana leaned forward. I love you. I've loved you probably since the day you told Myeon to leave because she was rude to me. Maybe even before that, and I'm tired of being scared. I love you too, Ryan said. I think I've loved you since you first told me I was just a stubborn patient. You saw me, really saw me, when everyone else just saw the family name or the money or the reputation. They were leaning closer now, and Viviana could feel her heart pounding. This was it. This was the moment. But before their lips could meet, the door burst open. Do-kyum stumbled in, his arm in a sling but grinning widely. Sorry, am I interrupting? He didn't look sorry at all. Just wanted to check on my favorite brother and the woman who saved both our lives. Your timing is terrible, Ryan said, but he was smiling. Are you okay? Couple of bruises, nothing serious. Uncle Jinwook's guys weren't as tough. As they looked, Do-kyum plopped into another chair. Father's outside, by the way. He wants to talk to both of you. Chairman Byun entered, looking older somehow. Tired. He nodded at Viviana, then focused on Ryan. Son, he said carefully, I owe you an apology. Several apologies, actually. Father, let me finish. Chairman Byun held up a hand. I tried to control your life because I thought I knew what was best. I arranged your engagement because I thought power and alliances mattered more than happiness. I pushed Viviana away because I was prejudiced and foolish. He paused. I was wrong about everything. Ryan stared at his father, clearly shocked. I've made many mistakes. Chairman Byun continued. But I won't make another one. If you love Viviana, if she makes you happy, then you have my blessing. Both of you. Viviana felt tears streaming down her face again. She hadn't realized how much she'd needed to hear that. Thank you, Ryeon said quietly. That means everything. Chairman Byun nodded stiffly, still not comfortable with emotions, then left. Do-kyum followed, winking at them on his way out. Alone again, Ryeon and Viviana looked at each other. So, Ryeon said, where were we? Viviana laughed. I think you were about to kiss me before we got interrupted. Right. Ryeon pulled her closer, his hand cupping her face gently. Let's try this again. This time, no one interrupted. Their lips met softly, tentatively, like they were both afraid the moment would shatter. But it didn't. It was real and perfect, and worth every bit of pain they'd gone through to get here. When they finally pulled apart, both were smiling. I could get used to this, Viviana whispered. Good, Ryeon said, because I'm not letting you go again. The next few months were a whirlwind. Ryeon continued his physical therapy, and with Viviana's help, he was walking without assistance within weeks. Chairman Byun officially stepped down and named Ryeon as his successor, much to everyone's surprise. Do-kyum took on a bigger role in the company, proving himself more capable than anyone had given him credit for. Mi-yeon was found in Hong Kong and extradited back to face charges. Uncle Jin-wook was already in prison, singing like a canary to try and reduce his sentence. The whole scandal rocked the business world, but somehow the Byun family weathered it. And through it all, Viviana and Ryeon grew closer. They were inseparable, really. Viviana met all of Ryeon's associates and slowly won them over with her warmth and genuine care for Ryeon. Ryeon spent time with Viviana's mama, who declared him acceptable but needs to eat more, and proceeded to cook for him constantly. Everything was perfect. Too perfect. 6 months after the poisoning incident, Viviana started feeling sick, tired all the time, nauseous in the mornings. She ignored it at first, attributing it to stress, but when it didn't go away, she finally took a pregnancy test. Positive. Viviana stared at the little plus sign, her mind reeling. She and Ryeon had never discussed children. They'd only been together for 6 months. This was too fast, too soon. She needed to tell him. But how? That evening she planned to do it over dinner. But when she arrived at Ryeon's mansion, something was wrong. The lights were all off. The security team was nowhere to be seen. Ryeon, Viviana called out, her voice echoing in the empty space. She found him in his study, sitting in the dark, staring at a folder on his desk. Ryeon, what's wrong? Where is everyone? He looked up at her, and his eyes were hollow again. Empty like they'd been when she first met him. All the life and warmth that had slowly returned was gone. I sent them away, he said flatly. I needed to be alone. What happened? Viviana moved closer, fear creeping up her spine. Ryeon pushed the folder toward her. Read it. With shaking hands, Viviana opened the folder. Inside were medical documents, test results, doctors, notes. She scanned them, not understanding at first. Then the words started to make sense. Genetic markers, degenerative disease, progressive, untreatable. I'm dying, Ryeon said simply. The doctors give me maybe 2 years, 3 if I'm lucky. Viviana's legs gave out. She sank into a chair, the folder falling from her hands. No, she whispered. No, this can't be right. There has to be. There's nothing. I've seen 5 different specialists. They all say the same thing. Ryeon's voice was emotionless, like he'd already accepted it. It's genetic. From my mother's side. It's why she died young too. Why didn't you tell me sooner? I found out this morning. I've spent all day trying to process it. He finally looked at her, and the pain in his eyes was unbearable. Viviana, you need to leave. You need to walk away from this. From me. What? No, I'm not leaving you. Yes, you are. Ryan stood up, his voice getting harder. I won't let you waste your life watching me deteriorate. You deserve someone healthy, someone with a future. You are my future, Viviana said desperately. Ryan, please, get out. The words hit like a slap. Viviana stood up, tears streaming down her face. I love you, she said. Whatever happens, I love you. That's not enough, Ryan said coldly. It's never been enough. Leave, Viviana. Don't come back. Viviana wanted to argue, wanted to fight, but she could see it was useless. Ryan had already shut down completely. He'd built his walls back up, and she couldn't break through. So she left. Again. But this time, she took a secret with her. A secret that was growing inside her. Made of her and Ryan. Proof that their love had created something beautiful. She was pregnant with Ryan's child, and he would never know. Batch 6. 8 months later, Viviana held her daughter for the first time. She had Ryan's eyes, dark and deep and beautiful. Viviana named her Miley, which meant strength, because this little girl was going to need all the strength in the world. She's perfect, Viviana's mama said, tears in her eyes. Does he know? No, Viviana said quietly. And he's not going to. After Ryan had pushed her away, Viviana had tried to respect his wishes. She'd moved to Johannesburg, started working at a community clinic, tried to build a life without him. But she thought about him every day, wondered if he was okay, wondered if he regretted sending her away. And now she had Miley, a living reminder of what they'd shared, a piece of Ryan that she could keep forever. But fate, apparently, had other plans. When Miley was 3 months old, Viviana got a call from Do Kyum. You need to come back, he said urgently. He's not doing well. The disease is progressing faster than expected. Viviana, I think he's giving up. He told me to leave. He doesn't want... He's an idiot, Do Kyum interrupted. He's been miserable without you. He pushes everyone away, barely eats, barely sleeps. Just sits in that mansion waiting to die. But maybe if he saw you, maybe he'd find a reason to fight. Do Kyum, I have a baby. I can't just... There was a long pause. A baby? Viviana closed her eyes. She hadn't meant to tell anyone. Yes, a daughter, Miley. Is she Ryan's? Yes. And he doesn't know? No, he made his choice. He wanted me to have a life without watching him die. So I left. Viviana, Do Kyum said gently. He deserves to know he has a daughter. And she deserves to know her father, even if there's not much time left. Viviana looked at Miley, sleeping peacefully in her crib. Do Kyum was right. She knew he was right. Okay, she whispered. I'll come. 2 days later, Viviana stood outside Ryan's mansion with Miley in her arms. Her heart was pounding so hard she thought it might explode. Sora answered the door and immediately burst into tears when she saw the baby. Oh, Miss Viviana, she sobbed. Oh, she's beautiful. She looks just like... I know, Viviana said softly. Where is he? In his room. He rarely comes out anymore. Sora wiped her eyes. He's going to be so surprised. That was an understatement. Viviana climbed the stairs slowly, Miley warm and solid in her arms. She reached Ryan's bedroom door and knocked. Go away, came the weak response. Viviana pushed the door open anyway. Ryan lay in bed, and Viviana's heart broke at the sight of him. He'd lost weight. His face was gaunt, his eyes sunken. He looked like he'd aged 10 years and 8 months. I said... He stopped when he saw her. Viviana. Hi, she said, her voice shaking. I know you told me to leave, but I needed to see you, and there's someone you need to meet. She stepped forward so Ryan could see Miley properly. The baby chose that moment to open her eyes and look directly at Ryan. Ryan's face went through a dozen emotions in seconds. Shock, confusion, recognition, wonder. Is she... His voice broke. Is she mine? Yes, her name is Miley. She's 3 months old. Viviana moved closer. I found out I was pregnant the day you got your diagnosis. I was going to tell you that night, but then you pushed me away, and I thought maybe it was better if you didn't know. If you could just let go without feeling guilty about leaving us behind. Tears streamed down Ryan's face. Can I hold her? Viviana gently placed Miley in Ryan's arms. He cradled their daughter like she was made of glass, staring at her with absolute awe. She has your eyes, Viviana whispered. She's perfect. Ryan was crying openly now. She's absolutely perfect, and I almost never got to meet her. Viviana, I'm so sorry. I'm sorry I pushed you away. I thought I was protecting you, but I was just being a coward. You were scared. I understand. I don't have much time left, Ryan said, looking up at her. The doctors say maybe 6 months, maybe less. But whatever time I have, I want to spend it with you. With both of you, if you'll let me. Viviana sat on the edge of the bed, covering Ryan's hand with hers. Of course, always. The next 6 months were bittersweet. Ryan defied the doctor's predictions. Viviana was convinced it was because he finally had something to fight for. He spent every possible moment with Miley, watching her grow, memorizing her smiles, recording video messages for her to watch when she was older. He and Viviana got married in a small ceremony with just family and close friends. Viviana wore a simple dress, and Ryan was in a wheelchair again by then, too weak to stand for long. But when he said his vows, there wasn't a dry eye in the room. I thought my life was over twice, Ryan said. Once when I had the accident, and again when I got diagnosed. But you saved me both times, Viviana. You gave me hope when I had none. You gave me love when I thought I didn't deserve it. And you gave me Miley, the greatest gift I've ever received. His voice shook. I don't know how much time we have, but I promise I'll spend every second of it loving you both with everything I have. They had 8 more months. 8 precious months of being a family, of late nights with a crying baby and early mornings watching sunrises, of laughter and tears and making every moment count. Chairman Byun, transformed by the experience, became a devoted grandfather. He spoiled Miley rotten and apologized to Viviana almost daily for how he'd treated her. Do-kyum became Miley's favorite uncle, always ready with silly faces and gentle songs. And Viviana's mama finally got to see her daughter truly happy. On a quiet Tuesday morning, with Viviana holding his hand and Miley sleeping on his chest, Ryan passed away peacefully. He was smiling. At the end, he wasn't afraid. He'd found his peace. The funeral was enormous. Hundreds of people came to pay respects to the man who'd changed so much in his short time as CEO. He'd redirected company resources toward charitable causes, established free medical clinics in underserved communities, and treated his employees with unprecedented fairness and respect. But to Viviana, he was just Ryan, the stubborn patient who'd learned to trust again, the man who'd faced death with courage, the father who'd loved his daughter with every fiber of his being in the limited time he had. 6 years passed. Miley grew into a bright, curious child who asked constant questions about her father. Viviana told her everything, about how they'd met, about his struggles and triumphs, about how much he'd loved her. Viviana never remarried. How could she, when she'd already had the love of her life? She ran the free clinic Ryan had helped her establish, serving the community and keeping his legacy alive. Every patient she helped, she did it in his memory. Chairman Byun remained close, a constant presence in Miley's life. He'd changed completely. The cold, calculating businessman had become a warm, loving grandfather. He told Miley stories about her father, teaching her about both her Korean and African heritage with equal pride. On the anniversary of Ryan's death, Viviana took Miley to visit his grave. The little girl placed flowers on the headstone, then looked up at her mother with those dark eyes, so like her father's. "Mama," Miley said, "do you think Daddy knows how much we love him?" Viviana knelt beside her daughter, pulling her close. I know he does, baby. Wherever he is, he knows. As they stood there, a warm breeze picked up, rustling the flowers. Viviana could almost feel Ryan's presence, like he was standing right beside them. She'd lost him twice. Once when she'd left for the money, and once when death had taken him. But she'd also found him twice, and that second chance had given her Miley. Had given her a love story that, though brief, had been more real and powerful than anything she could have imagined. Love doesn't always get a fairy tale ending. Sometimes it's messy and complicated and heartbreaking. Sometimes you only get a little time instead of forever. But Viviana wouldn't trade a single moment of what they'd had. Because even though Ryan was gone, his love remained. In Miley's smile, in the clinic that helped thousands, in the family that had learned to love across all boundaries, in the legacy of kindness he'd left behind. And really, what more could anyone ask for than to be remembered that way? To have loved so completely that it changed the world, even just a little bit. Sometimes the best love stories are the ones that break your heart before they heal it, you know? Anyway, drop a comment and let me know what you thought. Did this one hit you in the feelings or what? And, hey, there's more stories coming that'll probably make you cry too, so you should anticipate for those.